Hi friends, it's Ashley and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be another reading vlog, and we are going to be reading a romantic fantasy book that I'm super excited for, and that book is This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Ilona Andrews. So this just came out at the end of March, and it was one of my most anticipated fantasy books for the year. So this one I'm really excited for because our main character ends up waking up in the world of her favorite fantasy series. And I just love anime and manga where the character either gets reincarnated or transported to a fantasy world. And so this sounds like that, and so I'm just really excited to read this because I usually find those stories just so much fun. And also I was reading the author blurb, and apparently this author is a husband and wife writing team, which is really cool. And I was reading their blurb, and their blurb is so fun. So it says, Ilona is a native-born Russian and Gordon is a former communications sergeant in the US Army. Contrary to popular belief, Gordon was never an intelligence officer with a license to kill, and Ilona was never the mysterious Russian spy who seduced him. They met in college in English Composition 101, where Ilona got a better grade. And then parentheses, it says Gordon is still sore about that. And that little blurb is just so much fun. And I'm hoping the book has the same sort of fun energy to it. And so I'm gonna go start this, and I'll be back once I've read some and I have some thoughts. Alright, so the book series that she goes into, her favorite book series, her favorite fantasy series, there are 2 books out, and the third one never came out. And the author is also very mysterious, but that end of the second book left one of her favorite characters in such a bad place. Just having to deal with cliffhangers in series is sometimes bad enough when you're waiting for the next one to come out, but just thinking about a series you love, the next book never being published, and that latest book just ending on a cliffhanger like that, that's awful. I love this little paragraph here. It's just so self-aware. It says, I've read this type of story before. It was a portal fantasy, a subgenre that had grown really popular in fantasy romance lately. It seemed in every other book some poor office worker woman about my age got hit by a bus or collapsed from overworking and ended up in a fictional world. That's isekai anime in a nutshell. Okay, so I'm only on page 25, but I'm just loving how anime coded this book is, and just the references that it is making to isekai anime. I'm just loving it. Oh my gosh, the world of this book is so dark and harsh. And I really we're learning some things that happened in the book from the main character because she's read 2 of the books. And I really hope some of the stuff she's telling us that she's gonna change it and make better things happen. Hi, so it's the next day, and I'm here with a reading update because I have made it to chapter 14, page 140. And so far, I've just been having the best time with this book. I've been loving just how anime influenced this book is, and all the references to isekai anime in here. And while this does feel very anime influence, and particularly by the isekai genre, is also doing some things that is distinguishing itself from that genre and making it stand apart from those. For example, usually in isekai anime, when the character gets reincarnated or transported to another world, they're usually brought to that world as a hero with overpowered abilities. Or as a flip side to that, they could be reincarnated as a villainess or the villain. But as that villainess or villain, they still have power and the means to kind of turn their lives around. But in here, our main character, Maggie, she is just thrown into this world as herself, and she wakes up on the streets of this town naked with nothing. No magical abilities, no money. She has nothing. And so she has to use her wits and her knowledge of the books to survive her first few days in this world and to make a living for herself. And speaking of the world, it does quickly become apparent that while things are similar to what they were like in the books, there are also some things that are different from the books. And so that keeps things very interesting and also keeps Maggie on her toes. And at 140 pages into this book, the world already feels very fleshed out and detailed. And while there's already been a lot of world building in here, it hasn't felt overwhelming. It hasn't felt info dumpy. Instead, it's interwoven into the telling of the story. In addition to the world building, there's also been the introduction of a number of very interesting characters. And similarly to the world building, they already feel fleshed out and developed, and they're all very intriguing. And like the world, some of the characters are like they were in the book, but also others are different, are not quite the same as they were in the book. And so that keeps things very intriguing. And already in the beginning, we are introduced to a certain character who doesn't act quite like they are supposed to, like how Maggie expects them to act. And so I'm very intrigued by their character, and I want to know more about them and see more of them. And then very early on, the world of this book is established as a very harsh and unforgiving place to live. And so that part of the book could quickly become overwhelming and depressing, but it doesn't because it is balanced by the found family that Maggie is surrounding herself with. And so the harshness of the world and seeing Maggie use her knowledge and her wits to navigate the world is really keeping me on the edge of my seat and keeping me flipping these pages. And then the found family that she is gathering around herself is keeping my heart happy and keeping me with that sense of hope. And so I'm just really excited to read more and see where the story is going to go next. And I've already had the feeling of not wanting to put this book down, and there's already been so many times between yesterday and today where I've just been like, okay, I'm just gonna read one more chapter, just one more chapter. And so I feel like this is a book I could easily just sit and read all day if I could. But that being said, I have other things that I need and want to do today. And so next, I am actually going to go do some baking. Okay, so we are gonna make lemon shortbread bars. So I made these bars last May, and I've just been thinking about them ever since. They were so good. And so I'm finally gonna make them again. And I was actually going to make them last weekend for Easter, but I never got around to it. So yeah, we're gonna do that now. If you're interested in the recipe, I will link it down below. So it's a few days later since my last update, and I am now on chapter 35, page 376. So I have less than 100 pages left in this book, and that's crazy because I just started this on Sunday, and so I was figuring I'd probably be reading this the whole entire week because this book is almost 500 pages. But I'm almost done, and I'm obsessed with this book. I don't want to put it down. I'm devouring this. There's just something about this story and the way it's written that's so addictive. Like, everything about this book is just amazing. It's so good. The characters are well developed and layered. There are a lot of characters in here, and so I feel like that could be a little overwhelming for some people, but I personally love a lot of characters in my books. Although I do kind of feel like I need a character chart to keep them all straight in this book. So I know I mentioned in my earlier update that our main character Maggie, when she wakes up in this world, she doesn't have magic. But what I didn't mention was that she does have a special ability, and I'm gonna tell you what it is now, and it's not a spoiler because it mentions it on the inside flap, and also like you learn about it very early on in the book. And that ability is that when she dies in this world, she comes back to life. And so the book could have easily just relied heavily on that special ability of hers and used it as like a crutch to get her out of like any situation, but it doesn't. It uses it pretty much as a last resort, and I really like that because I feel like if it was overused, it would just make the whole idea of death feel cheap and gimmicky. And in the story, when she does end up using her ability, like it has real consequences and she has to deal with trauma from using it afterwards. And so I really like how the book does not belittle death in any way and still treats it with like the seriousness that it deserves. And instead, Maggie relies heavily on the knowledge of the books and also of stuff that she knows from our world. And so she uses this knowledge to give people better fates and to also like introduce some things that makes people's lives better. And in that way, this reminds me of the anime and light novel Ascendance of a Bookworm. So in this, our main character, she is a book lover and she lives in the modern world, but then she ends up dying and is reincarnated into a fantasy world. And she ends up being reborn as a sickly daughter of a peasant family. And unfortunately, in this world that she is in, books are a rare commodity because they're expensive to make, and so only really nobility have access to books. But she cannot live without her beloved books, and so she decides that she's going to try to make her own. And so she uses like her knowledge from our world to first try to like create paper and then eventually make books. And she also like creates other things too with her knowledge from our world to improve her life and other people's life in this world. And so in that way, this reminds me of this. And this is also one of my favorite anime. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. And the plot twists going on in this book, the politicking, like amazing. Like I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm flipping the pages to find out what's going to happen next. And there was one plot twist in particular where my jaw was just on the ground. I was stunned, and it was like a really, really good plot twist. And then the world building in here, also amazing. Like it is so detailed. I feel like I'm in the world of Kai Torin in this. I can picture it. I feel like I'm there alongside Maggie. Also, in particular, in awe of like all the magical creatures that are in here. There's just like so many different and unique magical creatures in here. And like the author had to like think all those up. Like that's just amazing. And then the final thing I'm loving about this book is the slow burn romance between Maggie and a certain character. It is just so good. It is also very complicated. And the complicatedness of it just keeps things very interested in me on the edge of my seat and like rooting for this romance to work out. And yeah, I feel like I rambled on long enough about this book. I am now gonna go finish this because I need to know what's gonna happen next. I need to read more of this. I need to be in this world again. I need to be with these characters again. So I will see you again when I finish this with my final thoughts. Can I just say like how much I love the found family vibes in here? They are immaculate. So there are parts in this book that are like really serious and parts where like the world is definitely really harsh, but there's also moments that are just like fun and over the top and just like awesome, and that's one of those moments that's happening right now. Oh. Oh. Things just keep getting better and better. The drama right now is so good. Ah. The slow burn romance. The romance right now. how it ends? No, I don't accept that. So I finished this and then proceeded to stare at my wall for 5 minutes because the ending of this, this ended on such an evil, awful cliffhanger, and the second book isn't out yet, so now I have to wait for who knows how long. But I need the second one right now, but that's not gonna happen. This is without a doubt getting 5 stars. I even think this might be my favorite book of the year so far too at this point. And on the back of the book, Caitlin Rosarkis, she blurbs this, and I think her blurb perfectly sums up how I feel about this book. So she says, with intricate plot and brisk pacing and snappy dialogue, this self-aware take on the Portal fantasy is a delight. And I 100% agree with that statement. That describes this book to a T. Intricate plotting? Oh yes. The plot is so intricate, and just when you think you figured something out, nope, a plot twist comes and hits you in the face. Brisk pacing, yes, that's what kept me flipping those pages and not wanting to put this book down. And snappy dialogue, oh my gosh, I love the snappy dialogue in here so much. And then how self-aware this book is, that it is getting influence from isekai anime. I also love that as well. And I feel this book balanced every element in it well. No one element overshadowed the other. You had politics, you had romance, you had action and adventure. You had some slice of life moments and found family, and all those elements just blended together so well, and nothing overpowered any of the others. It was a perfect mix of all those elements. And yeah, I ended up loving this. I borrowed this from the library because I was what if I don't like it? But now I loved it, and so now I'm gonna have to buy my own copy, which I want to look into and see if there is any collector's editions of this. And so I'll definitely be adding this to my bookshelf, and there's so much going on in this book that I think it's also the perfect type of book to reread as well, and I'll definitely be rereading this again at some point. Probably not for a while because I have a lot of other books I want to read, but I just love this. I love the characters in here already so much. I feel so attached to them already that if anything bad happens to any of them, it's not going to be a good time for me. But yeah, I love this. I would 100% recommend checking it out if you're interested in it. And let me know down below if you have read this, what you thought of it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye!